I'm joined here today by the menace Michael Johnson, who's set to fight Andre Fili at UFC Lincoln. Michael, how are you today?
Good. I'm doing really good, man. I'm just relaxing from a nice little training session, and everything's on the up and up. I'm feeling really good for this fight. I couldn't be more happy with my opponent.
Glad to hear it. And speaking of your opponents, you're fighting Andre Fili, a young guy coming off a win. What are your thoughts on your opponent heading into this fight?
He's a very tough, durable opponent. Like I said, I always said there's always going to be tough fights in the UFC. He's a guy that really likes to move around and, strike, and he's got decent wrestling. He's got great jiu-jitsu, and, it's going to be an interesting fight.
And
it's pretty interesting that, I'm fighting their gym again, in the, back-to-back like this. So I got a little bit of, chip on my shoulder. So.
And how do you think you match up with him?
I think I match up very well with him. We're both strikers. We both know how to wrestle, and, it's going to be a good fight.
And what was your reaction when this fight was offered? I mean, obviously when it was announced, I know I was excited, Twitter was excited. Were you excited when it was announced?
Yeah, of course. I'm always excited when I get fight news. That's what I'm in the business to do. I'm in the business to fight, and especially the tough fights. This is a tough fight, so I got really excited.
And so obviously it's not really a secret. You moved down to 145 for your last fight. Now you're staying at 145. Was there any thoughts of leaving 145 after your last one?
No, a little bit. I just wanted to make sure I had another fight just to really see how my body reacted. So who knows if this will be my last fight at 45 or not. It just depends on how it goes and how my body reacts and how I feel about it.
And so far, obviously, you're in your training camp. You've got to keep your weight down, of course. How do you feel physically at this weight?
Yeah, I feel good physically. I was good mentally. My last fight, I just made a little error and a mistake, and against a guy like Darren Elkins, you have to really be careful about the mistakes you make, and of course I made one that cost me the fight. So other than that, man, my body feels great at 145.
And how was your last cut? We do know it sounds like 10 pounds, but sometimes it can be a big deal for guys. How was the cut for the last fight?
The cut last fight was actually a little easier than my 55 cut. I brought in Lockhart and those guys, Tyler and Mayweather and those guys helped me with my nutrition a lot, and they made sure I was fed well, and they took care of me during fight week. So, I really appreciate them for doing that.
And so what did you do to get your body prepared for? I guess you've got to change your whole lifestyle when you're cutting down to 145. What did you do to sort of get your body ready before the cut ahead of time?
I just cut out pretty much all my carbs. I didn't eat much bread at all, if any. And I just need to stay a really clean diet. I need to run a lot, and I just need to keep my conditioning up. As long as I hit those two things, everything will work out.
And so, unfortunately, you are coming off a loss, like you mentioned, to Darren Elkins. What do you think went wrong for you in that fight?
Like I just mentioned earlier, I just made a little mistake, lost focus for a little bit, and, I got myself in a bad position, and I wasn't able to bounce back from it.
And, fighters always mention they always learn more from a loss than they do a win. What did you take away from this fight?
Yeah, the same thing usually. I need to stay focused from the beginning to the end. I had a great first round, and I came out and I kind of dropped the ball in the second round, and, that's it. I just need to stay focused.
And so it has been a few months since your last fight. I believe it was January. Were you hoping to take this much time off, or were you kind of hoping to come back earlier?
No, I wanted to come back earlier, but, it's a business, and this is how things work. Sometimes opponents don't answer the call. Sometimes you don't get matched up. There's a lot of fights that go in and happen, and, it's just one of those things where it is what it is. So, I'm glad to get the fight and to be able to fight so close to home in Nebraska.
And so someone you did work with a lot just announced his retirement, of course, Rashad Evans. What did you think when he announced he was retiring?
It was a little emotional, as well. I'm pretty sure for everybody. He's a good friend of mine, but it's good to see him, move on to another chapter in his life, and hopefully a lot of doors will open up for him. And who knows? It's one of those things where somebody retires, you close the door, and another door opens up. So I'm sure he's excited for the next chapter of his life, and it's always good to leave this sport healthy. And he's pretty healthy leaving, so it's good.
And so, of course, he was with you back in the Black Zillions. Obviously, the Black Zillions aren't really a thing anymore. I believe it's the Combat Club. Where are you training after all of this stuff kind of happened?
We're all over. It's a place called Hard Knocks 365. So it's H Kickboxing Gym. Us, Henry Hoover, Greg Jones. Kami Brazzini. So we all kind of stayed together, and we just kind of started our own thing, and everything's going really well.
And how is it for you over there? Do you feel like it's better for you, or does it feel kind of like the same thing as back when you guys were at your old gym?
It's the same thing. Nobody's left. It's the same guys, the same training sessions.
And so obviously we know every training camp can be a little bit different. You're facing Andre Fili, an exciting guy with a unique style. Is there anything you're working on in particular to get ready for this fight?
No, nothing particular, man. Just I gotta stay true to myself. That's it. Just gotta go in and fight the way I always fight, and I'll come out with the win.
And so obviously when this fight was announced, people were saying they were expecting a brawl, they're expecting an exciting fight and everything. Obviously you're the guy who's going to be fighting. Are you expecting that kind of fight? What are you sort of looking towards?
I'm just expecting a great fight. Like I say, he's a good fighter. He's well conditioned, comes from a very good team, and we're gonna have our hands full this week.
All right, so I just have one more for you. Usually one of the more important questions. How do you see this fight playing out for you?
Of course, to see my fight going in here and getting in with the win. And, that's all it is. Whether I got to get in and get a knockout or decision, either way, I'm walking away with the win.